Good morning. Welcome to Business with Apostle Dwayne. Okay, so today we're going to be doing the fifth installment on the You Only Get What You Negotiate. I've been covering this for the last 4 weeks, different aspects of negotiation based on just kind of showing you negotiating, but revealing it from scripture. And this is something, having an understanding of negotiating and negotiation is something every person needs. And so I'm going to go into a lot of depth today. I'm going to give you the fifth installment, and I'm using the life of Jacob in a this very interesting interaction between him and his employer for over 20 years, which was his father-in-law. And if you want to understand the dynamics of people interacting with each other in productive and unproductive ways, you can't get any better example than family, especially family and business. And so today on this installment, I'm going to continue from last week, and I'm going to continue to give you some revelation that's going to help you to understand how to be shrewd and building your tactics when you're not just in negotiation, but all interactions is basically a form of negotiating, one person to another. And so there's a lot of revelation in here for you. At the end of the message, I've got a couple of announcements that I'm going to make about my ministry and where we're going and whatnot. So if you could, please just hang out to the end, and you can find that part out as well. Because I've been under a lot of and a lot of thought about how I was going to go with this ministry and considering which way to go. And so at the end of this message, I'm just going to give you another update and just kind of let you know where we're going. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the message. Now, last week I left off with, so here Jacob had worked for Laban for 14 years to pay for the dowry for one wife, and he got the second one thrown in for free. And none of this stuff was by his desire. He initially agreed to work 7 years to pay for the dowry to marry the first wife, and instead of his father-in-law, who was in relationship with him for 7 years and watched the man work and help him in his family business, which was raising shepherding and raising animals, or animal husbandry, I guess it would be called. And so here he had seen this man was great at what he did. And so instead of saying, "Hey, Jacob, man, you're doing really great. You're helping me and my family, expand. You're multiplying my wealth and whatnot. And I want you to stay. And hey, I want you to marry my other daughter." And try maybe approaching him in a way that was straight up. Instead of doing that, what Laban did was he just stole that 7 years from Jacob, and he kept the first wife. He had her sister go and pretend to be her, and then So I've covered all this in the first three, in the second messages 2 through 4. I've covered the kind of the backdrop of this and leading up to this, and so here we are at the end. Jacob is done. He's ready to go. He's now wealthy, and Laban has been reduced probably back to where he was before Jacob came. And now Jacob knows that Laban isn't going to let him leave. Okay. And God appears to him, tell him, "Hey man, it's time for you to go back to the promised land, to where your father is, where I want you to be." And so we're going to pick up from here. So in the last message, I left off with Jacob had he had basically he had a meeting with his wives and discussed everything with them. He had a meeting before he made his decision. Really, he had already made his decision, but he had a meeting with them about it before he implemented and got them on board. And which is very smart. I don't care whether it's relationship or whether it's a business. Well, business relationships are relationships, just so you know. You always want to talk to your people first, because Vision projecting is a very important thing. Very few people have accomplished anything great without help. Okay. And so anytime you have something, a big assignment or a large territory that's been given to you, it's going to involve more people than just yourself. Okay. So really the only way you can grow is through people. That's the second level. That's the next level of growth, is growing through people. All right. Let me give you an example. I've heard it said that JP Morgan, JP Morgan Chase Bank, he had a saying, and his saying was, I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of one person's efforts. Okay. Now, why is that important? Well, let me say it and let me explain. If you've ever played Monopoly, the little guy on Monopoly, the main character, the one who goes to jail, the one who, wins the lottery or whatever. He goes around the board and he, pays the bills and, all that stuff. Well, that is a caricature of JP Morgan Chase, or JP Morgan. JP Morgan of JP Morgan Chase Bank was, and probably in today's money, he was close to being a trillionaire. He was definitely a multi-billionaire in his own time, let alone what that money would equate to now. Okay. And so if you've got someone who can build that kind of wealth back when everything was very labor intensive and you didn't have computers and whatnot, if someone who, and basically he was one of the industrialists, if someone who could build that kind of wealth, employing thousands and thousands and thousands of people and managing untold amounts of capital and cash and those types of things, if they would give you some advice, wouldn't you take it? It doesn't really matter what the time is that you live in. If anything, what we have to do is so much easier than what they had to do back then to manage that kind of an empire. Okay. And he said, I would rather have 100% or 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of one person's effort. Okay, does that make sense? Well, let me try and explain it for you in a different way. Who was the one person who's 100% he didn't want? It was him. You can only do so much by yourself. Period. I don't care what you do, you can only accomplish very little really by yourself. But two people can do the work of three individual people. Two people working together can do the work of three individual people, at least. Now, what the Bible says is, as one will put 100 to flight, two will put 10,000 to flight. So really, two people working 100%, giving 100% of what they have together, can produce untold amounts. But one person by themselves is limited. Three people working together can do the work. This is just normal. When you got some adequate systems in place, three people working together can do the same amount of work as 10 individual people, because there's a multiplication effect. There's a division of roles, division of labor. There's there's so many different systems that you can put in place when you have multiple people. Well, how much work, if three people can do the work of 10, how much work do you think 100 people working together can accomplish versus individual people? You're talking about 10,000 people. I mean, seriously. I mean, if you go and read, there's a book written by a guy who's the father of all economics, Adam Smith. And his book was called, I think it was the Wealth of Nations. I can't remember, but an amazing book written in the 1700s. It's still utilized now. When you hear them talk about the market and supply side versus it's been so long since I read the book, but but most of the economic principles that we operate in now were written by this man who was a savant in these things back in the 1700s, late 1700s. You have to understand, people are not that much more advanced than they ever were. If anything, we're dumbed down from what people used to be. They knew a lot more. They had to know a lot more than what we know now because of all the modern conveniences. What we just have is technology. Okay. And so I'm explaining these things. I don't want you to think I'm running off on tangents, but when but that 1% of 100 people's efforts, if you got 100 people working for you and your systems are good, you're bringing in so much money that you can take a little sliver off the top. The wealthy people in the world, you know, if you look at an iceberg, most of the icebergs beneath the water and the tip is above the water. Most of the wealthy people in the world, when you see what they have, the houses, the planes, the cars, and all that stuff, that's just the tip. They're living off the tip. We're spending all our money trying to catch up and emulate people who aren't even spending their real money. They're spending pocket money. That's pocket money that they're spending to buy the houses, the cars, and all that stuff. They've got things that are generating wealth for them, working 24 hours a day. And so you have to move from a worker mindset, which is you get 100% of just your effort. You got to move to a business mindset where you employ people and you pay them, or you employ your money and it pays you. Either way, you're giving somebody or something a job that creates an income stream for you. Okay. Now this is a principle. I really didn't intend to talk about this, but this is, since I had the thought to tell you about it, I'm going here, but this is a major thing that you have to shift in your mindset from working for your money to giving your money a job. Okay. And then also the idea of growth. You're not going to grow. If the idea of you growing is you doing more, you got your thinking is flawed, because you can grow more through people and accomplish more through other people than you could ever do on your own. If you are effective at leading people and giving them something to do and helping them become uplifted, then you will be uplifted. It's just, these things just happen. It's a natural occurrence in the earth. And so you want to make sure that you have the mindset to grow through people, that you want to get lifted, you want to get elevated. You don't want to be working on 100% of your own effort and staying small, because that's really all you're going to do. If you're going to stay small, you'll never really get free by staying small. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and get back into the story here. And so, all right. So now here it goes. And it was told to Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled. Now Jacob left. He used the element of surprise. I talked about this last week, but the element of surprise is a critical element in anything you do when it concerns business and in life. And you never tell everybody everything. You want to keep a certain amount to yourself in your own mind, because that allows you to make critical decisions. You don't even want to let people know what you're looking at. Sometimes people, okay. When people think that you don't have anything, that's when they'll show you what they really think about you. When they don't know if you got money in the bank, if you look like you're poor, or if you maybe look like you're not doing well, or whatever, or if they think that, or if they think they're doing better than you, or people will tell you how they really feel when they don't think that you can benefit them, or that you have, or that they don't owe you anything. Or, that is a very important thing to know. You want to know what somebody thinks about you, because you can put the wrong person in the wrong position in your life. They can pick your pocket in 100 different ways. And in those cases, you're picking your own pocket. You never want, if someone's going to pickpocket me, it's going to be someone else. I had to learn that lesson. But so many times we take from our own pocket and we give to someone else in a way that we're taking from ourselves, and it's not wise. You have to be wise about managing your resources, okay? And so if you keep the element of surprise on your side, instead of telegraphing everything to everybody. Now, especially as believers, because this is something that's a major point of naivete. We think that we have to tell everybody everything. We've been manipulated into not being shrewd, and God really wants you to be shrewd. You need to be shrewd. Okay, because if and Jesus told you, I'm sending you out as lambs among wolves. These people are vicious. I'm sending you out as a meek and good person amongst a bunch of people who are wolves. And it's all about the people. It's not the animals. It's not the environment. It's the people. Everything comes down to the people. Okay, and so you want to be shrewd in everything that you do. Keep the element of surprise on your side. Don't telegraph everything you know. Don't tell everybody everything that you know. You need to be free to move without overcommitting yourself. Okay, so now, or without revealing your plans ahead of time to the wrong people, because you can get your foot shot off like that. All right, and he took his brethren with him. All right, hold on a second. Let me go back. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled. So here Jacob had fled with a 3-day head start. And he took his and it was told to Laban that Jacob had fled, and he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days journey, and they overtook him on the mount of Gilead. Okay, so it took him 7 days to catch up to Jacob. They are now too far away for Laban to bring him back. And he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days journey. Okay, caught him with Gilead. Oh, I did that one twice. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night and said unto him, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. So here he got a warning from God. Laban got a warning from God not to say anything to Jacob, good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, what hast thou done that thou hast stolen away unawares to me and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with the sword? Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly and steal away from me, and didst not tell me that I might have sent thee away with mirth and with songs and with tabret and with harp? And hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Thou hast done foolishly in so doing. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of your father spoke unto me yesternight, saying, take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now, though thou wouldest need be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? Okay, so now let me take you through this thing up through 31 here. Okay, so Jacob, he had a meeting with his wives, and he made a plan, and then he left. Okay, had Laban already told you down here in the later verse that he had the power to keep him there, or that he could have come after him with sword and whatnot. Jacob knew this. Jacob knew that Laban was more powerful than he was, or maybe he wasn't more powerful than he was, but he was definitely from there. Laban was from the place where Jacob had gone. And so in order for Jacob to get away, he had to leave, because Laban could have rounded up numbers of people from the area, in addition to extra family members and whatnot, to take away everything that Jacob had by force. So Jacob, being wise, he went to a different place. He left and took everything he had shrewdly, and so that if Laban did mount up with a group of people, that that Jacob could at least be on equal footing in a different place by the time he caught up to him. So it was shrewd for him to take the advantage and be gone for 3 days before Laban even figured it out. And see, now you also have to understand that God had appeared to Jacob and told him it was time to go. See, one of the things that I love about the Most High is that he has divine timing. His timing is perfect. It's amazing. His timing trumps anything that you could imagine. And he's shown me some ways to confirm when it's him, with time. I mean, it's amazing some of the things that he does to let you know that yes, this is the right time. And so here he told Jacob, okay, now go. And so that's when Jacob had the meeting with his wives. Jacob was already thinking about this stuff, but he waited for God's timing, for God to tell him, okay, Jacob, now it's time for you to go back. And so here Jacob, in being obedient, he leaves and he gets a 3-day advantage. Time, you always want time and timing on your side. Okay. And so it was told that Jacob was fled and he pursued after him 7 days. It took him 7 days to catch up. All right. And right here, he didn't go alone. He took his brother with him and he pursued after him. Okay. And he overtook him at the mountain. Now, right here's the intervention of God. So God told Jacob when to leave. Well, first of all, he told Jacob how to get multiplied on Laban's dime. He told him, don't let Laban give you anything. If Laban's going to be shifty with you, I'm going to show you how to make sure that no matter which way the deal goes, that that the deal is going to turn your way. I'm going to make sure that if he says you get the solid lambs, you get all the lambs come out solid. Or if he says you only get the speckled and spotted ones, then they come out speckled. If they come out if he says you get the striped ones, they're all going to come out striped. I'm going to show you how to do this, and then I'm going to help you do it. You see, this is an advantage that as a believer you can have, is that God will work with you and he'll reveal things to you, give you technology, understanding, wisdom, knowledge, revelation, and what to do, and so that you can move in ways that the world can't. And this is what we need to get back to as believers, especially. God is in the miraculous, but he's also in the normal everyday. He's also in the business of giving you revelation on how to move or act or do on a continual basis. And that's all revelation, and so we have to, if you want to be an overflow agent, you got to hear from God. You got to hear from God, period. You got to know what he's telling you and know when to act, what to do, what not to do, when to and when not. And he'll engage with you to help you. And not only will he give you the revelation, so he gave Jacob the revelation on how to make things work out for him. Then he told him when to leave or stay. And now here you see, and God came to Laban and spoke to him. God will even talk to your enemies on your behalf and terrify them and let them know, you do something to this person and I'm going to judge you. I'm going to come down on you. Now, sometimes the people will ignore that and God will have to lop them off or something. But a lot of times they do heed it. So you want to make sure that you're in right standing with God, so he'll be involved with you. Then Laban overtook Jacob. So God didn't even appear to Laban until Laban was already gone, already on the way to chase him. And why wouldn't Laban do that? These were 3 of his daughters, or 2 of his daughters, all of his grandchildren, and his wealth. I mean, Jacob left. Laban, he messed himself up by bringing Jacob in the way he did, and then by treating Jacob the way he did. A lot of times people do not understand what they're doing to themselves. When you have the right mentality and right understanding and you're right with God, when they come in and come after you and do different things, all they're doing is setting themselves up to reward you in ways that now they don't. He could have just paid Jacob. He could have paid the man fairly. He could have treated him right, but now he loses everything because he didn't want to do the right thing the right way. All right. And so he finally overtook him after 7 days. And again, this is his daughters who've been with him his whole life and his grandkids. Why wouldn't he pursue Jacob and be hot about it? In his mind, he probably, shifty people, they think that they're right. They only think about things from their perspective. It doesn't matter to them what happens to other people. There's a lot of people who really just don't care what happens to other people. There's a lot of people out there who really don't care how what they do affects you. They don't care about what you lose. They don't care about what you don't have. They don't care about, their bills are paid. They can go to dinner. They can go wherever. They can go on vacation. And then they'll come back and see you right there in that same jail cell they tried to put you in, or they're keeping you in. And it's sad that you have people like that in the world. And so they think that anything they've done for you, good or bad, is good, that you deserve that. When you're dealing with people like that, like I've shown you in the past few messages on just this subject, they'll show you what they think of you. And it's your job to respond. You let people tell you what they think of you and then listen. Let people tell you who they are and listen. Let people show you what they're going to do. Watch. It's your job to learn who you're dealing with. Otherwise, you're never going to have the advantage, or you're never even going to be on equal ground. Put it this way, unless you have an advantage, you're never on equal ground. When two powers, you look at two countries that are similar in strength and military power, then they respect each other. If they're similar in strength, military power, and wealth, economy, and all that stuff, there's a respect. But if one is higher than the other, they're going to disrespect that other one. You do what I tell you, because people take advantage of power. People take advantage of advantage. People take advantage of your disadvantages. People, unfortunately, nations are just large groups of people, aren't they? And so you have to understand that in order for you to be productive in your life, you got to manage these interactions with people, and everything is a form of a negotiation. And you're only going to get what you negotiate based on strength. Because if you're negotiating from a point of weakness, you're only going to get what they're negotiating. And so you have to have a way of having an advantage that diminishes someone else's advantage, and strengths that diminishes their strengths. And so what they'll do is they'll have a defense for your offense and an offense for your defense, and you got to do the same thing. Unless you're competing to win, you're going to lose. If two people are in a boxing match, and one person is spending all their time punching, and the other person is spending all their time just avoiding punches, who's going to eventually win? The person that is punching. Because the one who is spending their whole time never punching, just avoiding punches, what they're doing is they've just made the other person's job easier. When you throw a punch, you should have three coming back at you. Or I'm sorry, when they throw a punch at you, they should have three coming back. And so you got to understand that if you're where you're just trying to not if you're not trying to win, you're trying to lose. If you're not trying to win, you are trying to lose. That's it. So you have to understand that you have to get to a point in your mindset, because this is everything I'm telling you right now is all mindset. This is all your understanding, your wisdom, your knowledge, and revelation that helps you to choose what you're going to do. All right. And so I'm just going to kind of cover just a couple of things real quick, and then I've got to go. But, or actually, let me go ahead and just make some announcements. And I'll continue with this. I'm going to do one more message on this. You only get what you negotiate next week on Business with Apostle Dwayne. So I've been in some deep meditation about where I'm going with this ministry. And I'm only going to be doing the episodes that I'm doing right now to the end of the month. Starting next month in October, I'm changing things up, and I'm only going to be doing just a few, 2, maybe 3 at the most broadcasts a week. And I'm going to be changing my focus to working with my mission that God has given me, is to build overflow agents. My job, my assignment, besides, establishing my own life is to help other people. And so, and my call is to help call millions of black people in America, and maybe some over in other places, but this is where I am, into doing business and becoming wealthy. That's my assignment. And so I'm going to be spending all of my effort and time primarily from this point on working to build overflow agents. And I'm not saying just build people with money. That's not anything. God is looking to raise a generation of Christian millionaires in the black community, and that is my assignment. And so if you want to join me in that, please go to my website, apostledwayne.com, and you'll see a lot of the revelation in it and things that I share here. But I'm going to start different programs of sharing wisdom from the scripture to help ground you in everything, so that you can begin to move miraculously in the things of God to establish your life and move in business and things like that. That is my assignment. And so that's where I'm going to be focusing my efforts, instead of this YouTube channel, which is to a large degree been very unprofitable for my time. And so I've got to get my time back, and I've got to begin to pour into the people that God has sent me to, or is going to be sending to me. And so for that reason, I'm going to be changing up what I'm doing moving forward at the end of the month. Also, another announcement is I'm going to start paring down the episodes that I'm doing now. I've been vacillating on this, going back and forth on it, but it's just not sustainable, and it's not reasonable for me to spend this amount of time on these live broadcasts, when there's so many other things that I have to do, and I just can't afford it time wise. I can't maintain it, and I can't grow in this way because I got to bring on a team. I've got to manage them. I've got a lot of things that I have to do. And so for that reason, again, I'm going to be making some changes and in what I'm doing. That being said, thank you for joining me for Business with Apostle Dwayne. You're only getting what you negotiate, part 5. Hopefully you've got some revelation out of this and some things that are going to help you in your understanding and moving in your life and in business. And if so, please, leave a comment, like or subscribe, let other people know about these messages, and I'll see you on the other side. All right. This is Apostle Dwayne.